Even homeless people are more useful, my brother said, eating the food I bought. My family laughed. I didn't argue, just left. A month later, his pleas filled my phone, come back, but I'd started over, far away. Their mockery built my strength. Now I'm successful, and they're just past noise. My revenge is my triumph. Their regrets don't touch me. So picture this. I'm sitting at our beat-up kitchen table on a Tuesday night, sharing takeout from that little Thai place down on 5th Street. You know the one with the neon sign that flickers? Yeah, that's the spot. I'd just gotten paid from my part-time gig at the local Target, and honestly, I was feeling pretty good about treating everyone to some decent grub for once. My whole crew was there. Mom, Dad, my older brother Jake, and my younger sister Emma. We're all digging into pad thai and spring rolls when Jake decides to open his mouth and absolutely wreck the vibe. This dude literally grabs another helping of my food, the stuff I paid for with my own hard-earned cash, and goes, "You know what's wild? Even homeless people are more useful than you." No cap, the whole table just erupted. Mom's cackling like it's the funniest thing she's ever heard, Dad's slapping his knee, and Emma's practically falling off her chair. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like a deer in headlights, watching my own family roast me while demolishing the dinner I bought them. Jake wasn't done though. This guy keeps going, I mean, for real, at least they hold up signs and entertain people. What do you even do? Work at Target? More laughter. Bro, you're 22 and still living at home making minimum wage. Even the guy who stands outside Walmart with his cardboard sign probably makes more than you in a day. The thing is, Jake wasn't wrong about some stuff. I was 22, still bunking in my childhood bedroom with the faded Superman posters and that ancient Xbox 360. But the way he said it with that smug grin while literally eating my food, that hit different. Real different. I didn't say anything back. Didn't defend myself, didn't throw my own insults, just sat there taking it while they had their laugh fest. But something inside me shifted that night, you know? Like when you're driving your old Honda Civic and suddenly the engine starts making that weird noise. You know things are about to change. After dinner, I went to my room and just stared at the ceiling for hours. The house got quiet except for the usual sounds, Dad's TV blasting some History Channel documentary about World War II, Mom doing dishes in the kitchen, Emma FaceTiming her friends about whatever drama was happening at her high school. Update. So I've been getting tons of messages asking what I did next. Honestly, that night changed everything for me, but not in the way you might think. The real question is, have you ever had a moment where you realized your own family saw you as a joke? Because that's exactly where my head was at. What would you do if the people who were supposed to have your back were the ones tearing you down? The next morning, I woke up with this crazy clarity, like when you've been squinting at something for hours and suddenly put on the right prescription glasses, everything just snapped into focus. I realized I had two choices, stay and keep being their punching bag, or bounce and prove them wrong. I chose option 2. First thing I did was hit up my buddy Marcus, who'd moved to Portland about 6 months earlier. This dude had been begging me to come out there, saying the job market was insane and he could hook me up with some opportunities. I'd always been like, nah man, I can't just leave. But suddenly leaving seemed like the only smart move. Marcus was pumped when I called. Yo, for real? You're finally gonna do it? Bro, I've got this connection at this tech startup downtown. They're looking for people in customer service and operations. Nothing fancy, but it pays way better than Target and they actually care about promoting from within. Within a week, I had it all figured out. Found a tiny studio apartment through Craigslist. Nothing special, but it was mine. Talked to my manager at Target, and she was actually cool about me transferring my last 2 weeks to the Portland location while I transitioned. Even helped me write up a decent resume. The hardest part was not telling my family what I was planning. Every dinner was this weird performance where I'd sit there listening to their jokes and comments, knowing I was about to ghost them completely. Jake kept making his little digs. Oh look, the Target employee has joined us for another free meal, and I just nod and smile. My last night in that house, I packed everything that mattered into 2 duffel bags and my old JanSport backpack. Honestly, it wasn't much. Some clothes, my laptop, a few books, and this little cactus plant I'd somehow kept alive for 3 years. Everything else? All that stuff I thought was important? Turned out I could live without it. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic, just, thanks for everything. I'm starting fresh somewhere new. Don't worry about me. Short and sweet. The Greyhound bus to Portland left at 6 a.m. and I was on it with my whole life in those 2 bags. Watched my hometown disappear through that scratched-up window while listening to some playlist I'd made called New Chapter. A lot of Kendrick Lamar and some old-school rock. You know, the kind of music that makes you feel like you're in a movie montage. Portland hit different from day one. Marcus picked me up at the bus station in his beat-up Subaru Outback, peak Portland vehicle choice honestly, and showed me around the city. The energy was just wild compared to back home. People were actually doing stuff, chasing dreams, building businesses. Even the coffee shops felt more alive. The interview at the startup went better than I expected. Company called TechFlow Solutions. They handled customer support and data management for smaller tech companies. Nothing glamorous, but the office had that cool startup vibe with ping-pong tables and free snacks, and everyone seemed genuinely happy to be there. My supervisor, this awesome lady named Karen, who was nothing like the meme Karens, took me under her wing immediately. Look, she said on my first day, I can tell you're hungry for something more than just a paycheck. We like that here. Work hard, learn everything you can, and we'll help you grow. And grow I did. Started in basic customer service, but within 2 months I was handling more complex technical issues. 4 months in, they moved me to the operations team. 8 months later, I was training new hires and had my own little corner of the office with a decent view of the city. The best part? Nobody knew my backstory. Nobody saw me as the family disappointment or the target employee who couldn't get his life together. I was just this guy who showed up every day, crushed his tasks, and brought good energy to the team. Update. Y'all have been asking about my family's reaction when they realized I was gone. Here's the thing. For the first month, my phone was completely silent. Radio silence. I was starting to think maybe they didn't even notice I'd left, which honestly would have been the most brutal outcome possible. But then something happened that I definitely didn't see coming. The question that's been eating at me. What do you do when the people who hurt you suddenly need you back? About 6 weeks after I'd settled into my new life, my phone started blowing up. First it was Emma. A bunch of texts like, "Where are you?" And Mom's freaking out, and Dad keeps asking if I've heard from you. Then Mom started calling, leaving these voicemails that went from worried to angry and back to worried. But Jake was the most interesting. This dude who'd spent years treating me like I was worthless suddenly couldn't stop hitting me up. First couple messages were typical Jake. "Bro, what's your deal? Just call Mom back." But then they got more desperate. "Seriously, where are you? This isn't funny anymore." The breaking point came when I got a call from Dad. Now my pops is not an emotional guy. This man watches football, drinks Budweiser, and keeps his feelings locked down tighter than Fort Knox. But he calls me up sounding all shaky and goes, "Son, I don't know what happened, but your mother is beside herself. She thinks something terrible happened to you. Can you just let us know you're okay?" That one hit me hard, not gonna lie. I texted back, "I'm fine, I'm safe, I just needed to start over somewhere new." Left it at that. But Jake wasn't satisfied with that answer. This fool started calling me multiple times a day. When I finally picked up, he was almost in tears, and Jake doesn't cry, ever. "Dude, what the heck? You just disappeared. Do you know how crazy Mom's been? She filed a missing person report." I left a note, I said, keeping my voice steady. "A note? A freaking note? That's it? After 22 years you leave a note and bounce?" "What did you expect, Jake? You made it pretty clear how you felt about me." Long pause. Then, "Come on, man. I was just joking around. You know I didn't mean that stuff, right? But here's the thing. I did know he meant it. Every word. And now that I was gone, suddenly I was valuable again. Funny how that works." Over the next few months, the calls and texts kept coming. Mom would send these long, emotional messages about how the family wasn't the same without me. Emma kept asking when I was coming home for holidays. Dad sent awkward texts like, "Hope you're doing well, son." And Jake got progressively more desperate. "Bro, I messed up. I know I said some harsh stuff, but that's just how we joke in this family. You know that, right? Come back, man. It's not the same without you here." The irony was beautiful. When I was there, contributing to groceries, helping with bills, being the reliable one who was always around, I was useless. The moment I removed myself from the equation, suddenly I was essential. Meanwhile, my life in Portland was absolutely taking off. TechFlow had promoted me to team lead, which came with a solid raise and actual responsibilities. I'd moved into a way better apartment, still nothing fancy, but it had a real kitchen and a view of Mount Hood on clear days. Started dating this amazing girl named Sarah who worked at a nonprofit downtown. Made friends with my coworkers and some neighbors in my building. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was actually building something. Every morning, I'd wake up excited about the day instead of dreading it. Every paycheck felt like progress instead of just surviving until the next one. Update. The final update is wild, and I need to share this with y'all because it perfectly shows how life can flip the script when you least expect it. But first, the big question everyone's been asking, did I ever talk to my family again? And if so, what happened when they realized just how much their useless family member had actually changed? Because what went down 6 months later absolutely blew my mind. So fast forward to about 10 months after I'd moved to Portland. I'm killing it at work. They'd just promoted me to operations manager, which meant I was basically running the whole customer service division. My salary had more than doubled from my target days. I had my own apartment that I actually loved, and Sarah and I were getting pretty serious. Then I get this call from Emma. She's crying, which immediately gets my attention because Emma's tough as nails. Turns out, Dad had been laid off from his job at the manufacturing plant after 15 years. Mom was struggling with some health issues that were piling up medical bills. And Jake had gotten himself into some serious financial trouble with credit cards and was facing the possibility of losing his car. "They're too proud to ask," Emma tells me through tears. "But things are really bad here. I don't know what to do." Part of me wanted to feel satisfied, you know? Like, oh, now you need the useless target employee? But hearing Emma cry just hit different. She was the only one who'd never really participated in the roasting sessions. I didn't send money right away. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I bought a plane ticket home for the weekend. Walking into that house after almost a year felt surreal. Everything looked exactly the same, but smaller somehow. Like when you go back to your elementary school as an adult and can't believe how tiny everything is. Mom nearly tackled me at the door, crying and hugging me like I'd been gone for decades. Dad got all choked up and kept patting my shoulder saying, "Good to see you, son. Real good to see you." But Jake's reaction? That was the moment I knew things had really changed. This dude who used to swagger around like he owned the world looked genuinely humbled. Not just because of his money problems, but because he could see I was different. I carried myself differently, dressed better, spoke with more confidence. I wasn't the same person who'd left. Bro, he said quietly when we had a moment alone, I owe you a massive apology. The stuff I said, that was just me being insecure about my own life and taking it out on you. You were actually the one holding it together around here, and I was too stupid to see it. We talked for hours that night. Turns out, after I left, Jake realized how much I'd actually been contributing. I was the one who always made sure there was food in the house. I was the one who helped Mom with her computer problems and drove Dad to his doctor appointments when his truck was acting up. I was the reliable one, and they'd only noticed after I was gone. I ended up helping them out financially, not because I felt obligated, but because I could afford to, and because I wanted to. The difference was, now it was on my terms. I wasn't the desperate family member trying to prove my worth. I was the successful one choosing to help out of love, not necessity. 6 months later, Jake drove out to Portland to visit me. Seeing him, in my world instead of the other way around, was incredible. He met my friends, saw my apartment, came to my office, and met my team. Dude, he said on his last night there, I can't believe this is your life now. Like, you really built all this. From nothing? Not from nothing, I corrected him, from deciding I was worth more than how y'all were treating me. These days, we all have a much better relationship. They visit Portland sometimes, I go home for major holidays. But the dynamic is completely different now. I'm not the family, disappointment trying to earn approval. I'm the successful one who chose to maintain relationships despite everything. Jake still brings up that night at dinner sometimes, but now it's with genuine remorse. Remember when I said even homeless people were more useful than you? Man, I was such an idiot. You were the most useful one of all of us, and I was too blind to see it. The best part? My success isn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It's about proving to myself that I was right to believe I deserved better. Every promotion, every achievement, every happy moment in my new life is validation that leaving was the best decision I ever made. Sometimes people ask if I regret not standing up for myself that night at dinner. Honestly, no way. Because if I'd just argued back, nothing would have changed. By leaving and building something better, I didn't just win the argument, I won the whole game. My revenge wasn't some elaborate scheme or dramatic confrontation. My revenge was success. My revenge was happiness. My revenge was becoming the person I always knew I could be, far away from people who couldn't see my worth. And now their regrets and apologies are just background noise to a life I'm genuinely excited to live every single day.